The signal Jake Reed lived alone in a small wooden cabin, far from the city, deep in the forest. He liked the silence. No traffic, no noise, no people. Only trees, cold wind, and his old radio scanner. He had used it during his military days. Now it was just a hobby. He listened to signals, planes, satellites, sometimes even strange static that made no sense. That night, the wind was louder than usual. The trees moved like they were whispering secrets. Jake sat by the fire, drinking black coffee, his radio crackling softly beside him. Suddenly, the radio went silent. A low hum replaced the static. Not a normal sound. It was deep, steady, almost alive. Jake frowned. He turned the dials, trying to clear the sound. Then it came. A voice. Not human. Not machine. It spoke in a strange language, but somehow, Jake understood one word. Chosen. His hand froze on the dial. "What the hell?" he whispered. The fire flickered, though the windows were shut. The lights in the cabin blinked once, then again. The humming sound grew louder, now coming from outside too. He stood up slowly and grabbed the old shotgun hanging near the door. Not because he thought it would help, but because he felt better holding something real. The sound pulled him toward the window. Outside, the forest was dark, but above the trees something glowed. Not a plane, not a star. It floated. Smooth, silent, and bright like liquid metal. A cold blue light shone down from it, lighting the trees in a strange color. Jake's breath caught. The light moved. Slowly. Searching. Hunting. Then, it stopped. Right above his cabin. He stepped back. The radio screamed, loud, sharp, like it was in pain. He covered his ears, but the sound was already inside his head. His vision blurred. He saw flashes, not dreams, not memories, images. Alien faces with glowing eyes. A tall figure standing in front of a strange tree, a field of stars, a hand reaching out, then darkness. Jake opened his eyes. He was on the floor. The fire was dead. The radio was silent again, but outside, the light was still there. He stood up slowly. Every muscle hurt. His skin felt like it had been touched by electricity. He opened the door. The forest was silent. Too silent. On the ground near the trees, something was glowing. Not metal, not machine. It was a pod. Soft, pulsing, like it was breathing. Jake walked toward it. The shotgun was heavy in his hand, but he didn't raise it. His mind was calm. Too calm, like he wasn't in control anymore. He touched the pod. A soft shock ran through his fingers, then his arm, then his whole body. He saw more visions, alien ships flying through space, a temple made of bone and crystal, circle of tall beings watching him, then one word again, deep and powerful, chosen. He fell to his knees. A voice, soft and inside his head, spoke clearly this time. You are needed for the ritual. Before he could think, before he could run, the light from above wrapped around him. He looked up, eyes wide. The last thing he saw was the forest disappearing beneath him. He was floating, being taken. Then everything turned white. Arrival Jake felt like he was falling, but not down. He was moving fast, floating through a tunnel of light, colors he couldn't name flashing around him. There was no air, but he could breathe. No floor, but he wasn't falling. His body was frozen, but his mind was racing. What was this place? He remembered the pod, the voice, the word. Ritual. Then everything vanished into light. Now the light faded. Darkness came slowly, like a curtain being pulled down. Then, a sound. Soft at first. Like a heartbeat. Thump. 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 Jake opened his eyes. He was lying on something smooth, almost like skin. The air was warm and heavy, and it smelled alive. Not clean, not dirty. Just strange. like flowers mixed with electricity. He sat up fast, heart pounding. This was no hospital, no ship, no room. The walls pulsed with a slow rhythm, like a giant lung breathing around him. The floor under him shifted slightly with every pulse. Jake stood, careful. He was barefoot, still wearing his clothes, but they were damp with some kind of soft, glowing mist. No windows, no doors, just the strange living room. Then a hiss. A wall peeled back like it was opening a mouth. Beyond it, more of the same. A long hallway, walls breathing, lights blinking like stars. Jake walked forward. He had no weapon, no plan, just questions and adrenaline. The hallway opened into a large chamber, and there he saw them. The aliens. Tall, glowing, elegant. Not like the monsters from movies. They had smooth skin in shades of silver and blue, long limbs, eyes that shimmered like galaxies. They moved with slow grace, their bodies quiet but powerful. They didn't speak, but Jake felt them, their thoughts, touching his. A female figure stepped forward, taller than the rest. Glowing symbols moved across her body like tattoos made of light. She stared at Jake. Her eyes weren't just looking, they were reading him. Then, he heard a voice. Not from her mouth, from inside his mind. You are awake. You survived the passage. This is rare. Jake stepped back, fists tight. Who are you? Where am I? The alien queen didn't move, but her voice answered again. You are aboard the heart ship. We brought you, because instinct chose you. Jake's voice shook. Instinct? Yes. We search across stars, across species. Our ancient instinct finds one who can bond, one who is compatible. Your mind called, your blood answered. You are chosen. Before Jake could reply, a side wall opened. 3 other humans walked in. He froze. A woman in a torn flight suit, a man with a broken arm, a teenage boy with wild eyes. They all looked as confused and scared as he felt. Who are you people? Jake asked. They took us too, the woman said. I was flying over the Pacific. Then this, light pulled me out of my cockpit. Same here, the man said. I was hiking in Peru, saw a flash, woke up here. The boy didn't speak. He just stared at the queen. The alien queen stepped closer. You are not all chosen, only one. The others are here to observe, to witness, to understand. Then she turned to Jake again. You were selected by the call. Your instinct matched ours. And now, the ritual begins. The air changed. The room dimmed. A circle of aliens surrounded them. Jake felt heat in his chest, burning, alive. He looked down. A symbol was glowing through his shirt, pulsing. The same symbol that moved on the queen's skin. The woman next to him gasped. What's happening to you? Jake dropped to one knee, dizzy. He could feel the queen's thoughts, her memories, her planet dying, her people searching, her last chosen partner, dying in the ritual, her sorrow. He understood her now, more than he wanted to. She wasn't just powerful. She was afraid. She didn't want to lose someone again. Jake looked up at her. What is this ritual, really? The queen paused. For the first time, her voice hesitated. A fusion. Mind to mind, soul to soul. Your body may survive, or it may not. But without it, we cannot continue. We cannot survive. The other humans stepped back. The boy whispered, This is messed up. But Jake didn't move, his body burned. His thoughts were not just his anymore, something ancient, something lonely. Something alien was inside him now, and it needed him. Not just to live, to become. The queen spoke again. You may refuse. But then, another will be taken, and they may not survive. Jake stood slowly. His hands were shaking. His voice was calm. Then tell me everything. Tell me what happens next. The queen looked into his eyes and whispered inside his head, The trial. The trial, the chamber had changed. Jake stood inside a dark space that felt endless, like a dream with no edges. The walls no longer pulsed, the light no longer glowed. Everything was still, but he was not alone. The alien queen floated before him, silent, watching. Behind her stood 3 other beings. They were taller than the rest. Their skin was deep black, their eyes red and cold. They didn't blink, they didn't move. Judges. Jake felt the pressure in his chest. The glowing mark burned brighter. The queen spoke, but not out loud. This is the trial of instinct. No tools, no tricks, no lies. You must face it alone. Jake stepped forward, trying to understand. Face what? What kind of trial is this? You will face yourself, your fears, your choices. If you survive, the bond begins. If not, you fade. Before he could respond, the floor beneath him vanished. He fell, again. Not through space, but through memory, through pain, through something deeper than thought. Trial 1. The hunter Jake landed in a jungle. Humid, hot, buzzing with life. But it wasn't Earth. The trees were purple, the sky dark orange. Shadows moved fast between the leaves. He heard it before he saw it. Something big, something hungry. He ran. The ground shook behind him. Branches snapped like bones. Something was chasing him, something smart, a beast but not wild. It wanted to test him. He tripped and fell hard. The beast leaped from the trees, giant claws, glowing mouth, 6 eyes locked on him. He didn't scream. He remembered his training. Jake reached down, grabbed a sharp stone and stood up. "I'm not prey," he said. The beast paused. It looked confused. Then it bowed its head and vanished. Trial 2. The lion. Now he stood in a house. A normal house. Soft carpet, photos on the wall. His mother's voice called from the kitchen. "Jake, dinner's ready." He stepped forward. He smelled the food. His stomach twisted. His mother had died years ago. This wasn't real, but it felt real. She stepped out, smiled, arms open. "Come home, Jake. Stay here. Forget all that nonsense. No aliens, no ritual, just peace." His hands shook. He wanted to step forward, to hug her, but it wasn't her. It was the test. "You're not my mother," he whispered. Her face changed, turned to smoke, and disappeared. Trial 3. The guilt. He stood on a battlefield. Guns fired in the distance. Smoke burned his lungs. Blood soaked the ground. He saw a body, a young soldier, his friend, Alex, dead because Jake gave the wrong command. "You let me die," the voice said from the ground. Jake fell to his knees. He had carried this weight for years. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I would trade places if I could." The body vanished. A warm wind passed through the smoke. He was still alive. But now the voice returned. Not from the room. Not from a speaker. From inside him. "The Queen, you are not perfect, but you are real, and you did not run." The trials faded. Jake was back in the chamber. The 3 dark judges stepped forward. They placed their hands on his shoulders. Cold, heavy, final. But then, they stepped back, and they bowed. He had passed. The Queen walked toward him, closer than ever. Her face was calm, but her eyes, still shining, held a storm. "You are worthy." He could barely breathe. His body shook, not from fear, but from something rising inside. Emotion. Not his alone. Hers too. Their minds touched. In 1 second he saw her whole life. Born under a dying star, trained for leadership, forced to choose between love and duty, and now, trusting him. A stranger, a human, to bond with her. Jake spoke softly. "What happens now?" She answered without words. A new light appeared behind her. A door. Or something like it. "The bonding begins, but we are not alone." The light grew stronger, and from it came shadows. 6 figures, armored, armed, not from her species, not friends. Jake felt her fear, sharp and sudden. "Who are they?" he asked. She looked at him, voice trembling for the first time. "They are the pure. They do not want the ritual. They do not want humans to survive." A voice echoed from the shadows. "Kill the chosen. End the bond." Jake stepped in front of the queen, his fists clenched, his voice calm. "Then they'll have to go through me." Hidden truth. The queen stood frozen, her glowing eyes locked on the 6 armored intruders who had stepped through the light. Their bodies were wrapped in silver plates, their faces hidden behind masks shaped like skulls. Their weapons were silent, but deadly, pulsing with dark energy. They were not part of the ritual, they were not supposed to be here. "The pure," she whispered into Jake's mind. "They reject the bond. They believe our blood must stay untouched. They would rather see our kind fade than change." Jake didn't care who they were. They had weapons. They were here to kill, and he had just passed the trial. He stepped in front of the queen. "Get
behind me," he said. She didn't move. "They will not stop. They will test you again. But this time, not with visions." The first figure charged. Jake dodged fast, his soldier instincts firing. He grabbed a broken piece of crystal from the
floor and slammed it into the attacker's side. The armor cracked slightly, but it was tough. Too tough. The second figure swung a blade made of pure light. Jake rolled, barely avoiding it. It burned a line through the floor. The queen raised her hand, and a wave of force shot forward, sending 2 attackers flying back. Jake turned to her, shocked. "You could have done that earlier, only after the trial," she said. "You earned my defense." Together they fought. Jake's mind was still tired from the visions, but his body moved with purpose. Every strike, every dodge, every breath. He wasn't just fighting to survive anymore. He was fighting for her, for the truth behind all this, for the people the aliens had already taken before him. When the last attacker fell, broken and still, the queen placed her hands on Jake's chest. Her eyes were full of pain, but also full of something new. "Trust. They will return," she said. "But we have little time." A wall behind her opened, this time not into another chamber, into a memory. "Step in," she said. "What is this?" Jake asked. "The truth." He stepped through, and he saw it. A vast hall, made of crystal and bone, lit by floating stars. Inside, rows and rows of tubes, and inside those tubes, humans, some alive, some not, some awake, some still dreaming. Jake's breath caught, dozens of them, maybe more. His heart pounded. "You said I was chosen," he whispered. "But there were others." The queen nodded slowly. "Many were taken, many called, but few survived the trials. Some refused the bond. Others broke apart inside it." His hands shook. "Why didn't you tell me?" Her voice came soft but heavy. "Because if I told you everything, you might not have stepped forward. And we need you, not just for us, for both our kinds." He turned to her, anger rising. "How is this not kidnapping? How is this not murder?" The queen lowered her head. "It is survival. Our species is dying. We are not like humans. We cannot bond with our own anymore. We need instinct, new blood. The bond saves us. But yes, it comes with risk." Jake walked past the tubes. His hands touched the glass. Inside one, he saw a girl, young, maybe 16, barely breathing. In another, a man with scars all over his face, clearly a soldier like him. "Do they know what's happening?" he asked. "Some do, some don't. The weak one fade quickly, but your mind held strong, your will connected to mine." Jake turned to her. "And what happens after the ritual?" The queen looked at him, long, silent. "You will not be human anymore." He froze. Those words hit harder than any vision, harder than any blade. "What do you mean?" "Your thoughts will merge with mine. Your biology will change. You will live longer. See what I see. Feel what I feel. Your memories will not be only yours. And my body? Stronger, faster, but no longer of Earth. Jake stepped back. So I become one of you? Not exactly. Something new. Something between. Jake stared at the glowing tubes again. He had seen war, death. He had seen people die for no reason. But this was different. This was choosing to give up everything he was, to save someone else's future. What if I say no? The Queen looked at him, really looked. Her face was calm, but her eyes were wet with something that looked very close to tears. Then we release you. Your memories fade. Your name erased. And the ritual dies with us. Silence. Heavy, not cold. Real. Jake looked down at his hands. They were shaking, but not from fear, from the weight of the choice. Then the Queen said something that changed everything. You were not the first one I bonded with. He looked up sharply. What? Before you there was another human, brave, loyal, kind. He gave everything to save us. What happened to him? She turned to a final tube at the end of the hall. Inside, bones, only bones. A name etched into the glass. Captain David Reed. Jake's legs gave out. He dropped to his knees. His brother. The rebellion. Jake couldn't breathe. He stared at the name etched on the tube. Capt. David Reed. His older brother, gone for 5 years. They had told Jake he vanished on a secret mission. They had lied. He hadn't vanished. He had been taken. His bones now lay inside this glass coffin on an alien ship in a chamber of silence and guilt. Jake's fists clenched, his voice cracked. Why didn't you tell me? The Queen stood behind him quiet. Because the bond broke him, and I did not want to break you the same way. You used him. No, I loved him. Those words hit harder than the truth. Jake stood up slowly, his body shaking. Not just from grief, from rage. Later, in a private chamber, Jake sat alone. The Queen had left him space to think. His mind ran in circles, memories of David, of childhood, of the last words they had shared. I'll be back. David had promised. You always say that, Jake had joked. He never came back. Now Jake knew why. He died for this ritual. This Queen. This ship. A sound broke the silence. A whisper. Jake turned fast, ready to fight. But it wasn't a soldier. It was another alien, shorter, older, cloaked in shadow. Eyes glowing green instead of silver. He bowed slightly. The truth has broken many before you, the alien said softly. Who are you? A healer. And a rebel. Jake narrowed his eyes. You're not with her, are you? Not anymore. I served the throne once. Believed the lies. But then I saw what the bonding really costs. What are you saying? The healer stepped closer. This ritual you prepare for, it is not balance, it is control. You're lying. Am I? Your brother thought the same, until he saw the Queen's real purpose. Jake grabbed the healer by the collar. What are you talking about? The bonding doesn't just save our kind. It gives the Queen access to your thoughts, your instincts, your will. She doesn't just want to survive. She wants to rule through you. On Earth. Jake let go, his mind racing. You're saying she wants to invade? Not with weapons, not with armies, with minds. She bonds with one, then controls many. A slow invasion, through evolution. Why would I believe you? The healer smiled sadly. Because you already feel her inside your head. Jake stepped back. The healer vanished into the shadows. Jake didn't sleep. He didn't eat. He sat in silence, staring at his own hands. Were his thoughts still his own? He had felt her emotions, her pain, her fear. But was it real or planted? The next day he asked to see the Queen. She met him in a garden made of glowing plants and floating stones. It was beautiful, but Jake saw it for what it was. A cage dressed in light. Why didn't you tell me about David's mission? Because he didn't want you to know. You're still hiding things. The Queen paused, then said something Jake didn't expect. Yes. He stared at her. Then it's true, isn't it? This bond gives you control. Only if the high partner is weak, and if they resist, they die. Jake stepped back. The Queen stepped forward. But you are not weak, Jake. You are strong enough to share it, not be ruled by it. He didn't believe her. Not anymore. That night, Jake broke into the lower decks of the bioship. He followed the healer's map, past sleeping chambers, past nerve halls that pulsed like veins, and finally, into a locked vault. Inside, he found it. Files, recordings, human memories stored like data. One showed David, alive, confused, arguing with the Queen. Another showed other rituals, some that failed, some that ended in death. He saw humans screaming, bleeding, collapsing. They hadn't been chosen. They had been tested. Like lab rats, behind him, footsteps. Not one, many. He had been followed. The Queen stood at the doorway, her soldiers behind her. Her voice came cold. You should not have come here. You lied to me. I gave you purpose. You took everything from me. Her eyes glowed. And yet, here you stand, stronger than all before you, because of me. Jake shook his head. No, because of what you made me lose. He looked to the soldiers, to the healer who had appeared behind them. And then, he made a choice. You want the truth? He shouted. Then here it is. He threw the files into the center of the room. The data spilled across the air. Images, screams, dead faces, human bodies. The soldiers froze. They hadn't seen this. They had been told the bond was peaceful. They had been told the Chosen agreed. Now they saw the cost. Division split the room. Some soldiers lowered their weapons. Some stepped toward Jake. The Queen looked around, her eyes filled not with power, but panic. The rebellion had begun. The bonding, the room was chaos. Data swirled in the air, images of failed rituals, dead humans, forgotten names. The glowing files burned through the silence like fire through dry grass. Jake stood in the center. Half the alien soldiers had dropped their weapons. The others still pointed theirs at him. And the Queen said nothing. Her glowing eyes flicked from Jake to the files to her own people. For the first time since he met her, Jake saw fear, not hidden, not masked, real fear in her eyes, but not fear of death, fear of truth, because the lie was no longer hidden. Her voice cracked the silence. They won't understand. They'll turn on us. The bond is the only way forward. Jake stepped toward her. You lied. You used my brother. And you were going to use me. No, not like him. I waited for someone stronger. Someone who could survive the full bond without fading. Someone who could rule beside me, not beneath me. But you didn't give me a choice. The Queen looked down. Because choice is dangerous. Suddenly, a sound shook the room, a deep hum, like the ship itself was groaning. A voice echoed through the bioship walls, not the Queen's, not Jake's, but the Council's, a hidden layer of leaders that even the Queen answered to. The voice was cold, ancient. The ritual must proceed. The bond must be completed. The human is the final candidate. Jake spun toward the walls. What council? The Queen didn't meet his eyes. They created the bond. Before I was born. They watch from the deep chambers. They see all. They decide who lives, who dies, who merges. Jake's blood turned to ice. You're not the real ruler. No one is. Not truly. The voice spoke again. Prepare the human. The ritual begins now. The floor below Jake shifted, turned into a glowing spiral. He tried to jump back, but energy shot from the ground, wrapping around his arms, his legs. He was lifted into the air. Glowing threads crawled along his skin, through his veins. He screamed. Not from pain, from invasion. His memories flashed. Earth, his brother, childhood, firelight, forests, laughter. He felt them slipping. The Queen stepped into the spiral with him. Her body glowed. Her skin became light. Her thoughts began to mix with his. And Jake saw everything. Not just her thoughts, the council's, their plan, their future, their goal. Earth was only the beginning. Humans weren't being saved, they were being rewritten. The Queen had truly cared for Jake, but she had become part of something far bigger, far older. A system without mercy. Jake's voice tore through the chamber. "Stop it," the Queen cried out. "It's too late. The merging has begun." But Jake had learned one thing in war. Nothing is too late when your mind is still your own. He reached deep into himself, deep past the alien energy, past the pain, past the glow, to something human. Rage. Will. Choice. He turned that energy against the bond, against the ritual, and something shattered. The chamber exploded with light. The spiral snapped. The Queen screamed, not in pain, but in shock. The energy that was meant to change Jake was now changing everything. When Jake opened his eyes, he was still floating. But the chamber was empty. The Queen was on her knees, breathing hard, her glow dimmed. The council's voice returned, but weaker now. "This is not the path." Jake stood. His body was no longer the same. His hands glowed faintly. He was still human, but more, a hybrid. But not their creation, his own. "You wanted a weapon," Jake said, "but I became something else." He looked at the Queen. "I won't be your puppet, and I won't be your enemy either." The Queen crawled to her feet. Her voice was trembling. "What have you done?" "Broken the chain," Jake said. "You needed my instinct? Now you have it." He turned to the council symbol, a glowing eye on the wall. "But you don't own me." The symbol shattered, and silence fell. The soldiers looked at each other. Some knelt, others ran. The rebellion had spread. The old order was collapsing. Jake stood in the center of it all, alive, glowing, human, and something more. Hours later in the Queen's private chamber, she approached him alone. No guards, no power, just truth. "What now?" she asked. Jake looked out at the stars. "We rewrite the ritual." "And what of Earth?" "They'll learn the truth. From me." She stepped closer. "Will you ever forgive me?" He didn't answer. Instead, he placed a hand on her chest, where her light still flickered. "Only if you let them choose. From now on." She nodded. And for the first time, since her birth, the Queen bowed, not to a soldier, not to a lover, to a man who changed the future by saying no. New instinct. The stars looked different now. Jake stood on the edge of the bioship's outer shell, a massive living structure orbiting a distant moon. Beneath him, space stretched in every direction, cold, endless, beautiful. But Jake no longer felt small. Not anymore. He wasn't the same man who had once lived alone in a forest cabin. He wasn't just human now. He was something in between. His body had changed, stronger, sharper. He could feel the ship breathing beneath his feet. He could hear the thoughts of others nearby even when they said nothing. He had become instinct. Reborn. Behind him, the Queen approached, quiet, respectful. She no longer wore the royal lights that once floated around her body. She had stepped down from the throne days ago, by choice. Jake had watched her do it, watched her turn away from a 1,000-year tradition. Because of him. Because of a decision made not in war, but in will. "You haven't spoken since the council fell," she said, gently. "Still thinking," Jake replied. She waited. "They feared change so much," he continued. "They were willing to sacrifice everything for control. And yet," she said, "you changed more than they ever imagined." Jake looked at her. "And what about your people? Do they still trust you now?" The Queen's eyes, once so cold, now held softness. "Some do, some don't. But for the first time in our history, they get to choose." Back on Earth, the skies had changed too. 3 nights ago, a signal had reached orbit, a message, sent by Jake, not by the Queen, not by the Council, by him. The world had listened in fear at first and then with wonder. This is Jake Reed. I was taken, tested, changed. But I'm alive, and I'm not coming back alone. His words had shaken governments. Nations scrambled to understand. But one truth was clear. First contact had already happened, and it wasn't with a fleet of ships or an invasion. It was with one man who became more than one kind. But peace was never easy. Some humans wanted to fight. They saw Jake as a threat, a warning of what was to come. Others saw hope, a bridge, a chance. On the bioship, Jake watched both sides rise, fear and faith. They won't all welcome us, he said. Then we find the ones who will, the Queen replied. He turned to her. No, more rituals, no more forced bonds. From now on, we speak, we ask, we share. She nodded, agreed, but then something changed. A shadow passed over the stars. Jake looked up and saw a ship, not hers, not human, something else. Dark, massive, ancient. It didn't glow. It didn't send a signal. It just watched. You know them? Jake asked. The Queen's face paled. No, but they know us. An alert rang through the bioship. Defense systems hummed to life. Soldiers scrambled, but Jake raised a hand. Wait. The dark ship opened a channel. A voice echoed, deep, metallic, emotionless. We have observed your merging. Human instinct now lives in alien form. Your evolution has begun. Jake narrowed his eyes. Who are you? We are the first, the ones who created the instinct long ago. We left it in the stars to be found and changed. You are the first to complete the cycle. The Queen stepped forward. What do you want from us? We do not want. We only watch. The next phase is yours. Do not fail. The ship turned slowly and vanished. No attack, no war. Just a warning. Jake stood in silence, his heart beating louder than before. The Queen touched his arm. What now? He didn't speak for a moment. Then he answered. Now. We build. 3 months later, the first hybrid alliance station was opened above Mars. Humans and aliens working side by side. Equal, not bonded by ritual but by choice. Jake became more than a symbol. He became a leader, not a king, not a soldier, a bridge. His blood was no longer fully human, but his heart still remembered his brother, his pain, his freedom. One day, he stood in the center of the station, overlooking Earth from the glass walls. A young human girl approached him. She had curious eyes, and on her arm, the faint mark of instinct, one she had been born with. Are you the one they call the Chosen? She asked. Jake smiled softly. No, I'm the one who said no. The girl tilted her head. But you changed everything. Sometimes, Jake said, that's what no can do.